The storm outside roared like the devil himself had come to collect what was his. Wind howled through the cracks of the wooden cabin, rattling lanterns and making the shadows dance across the walls. Inside, the air was thick, too still, too heavy, as if the night itself was holding its breath. The rancher's hands trembled as he stood before her. His hat was tossed aside, rain dripping from the brim onto the floorboards. His eyes, hollow, broken, were fixed on the shape hidden beneath the blanket. "Please, don't take the cloth off," she whispered, her voice trembling like the last fragile thread holding her together. Her wrists were raw from rope, her hair tangled and damp. She sat on the edge of the cot, shoulders shaking, the blanket clutched against her chest, as if it was the only thing between her and damnation. He swallowed hard, his jaw locking. "I have to," he rasped. She shook her head violently. "You don't understand. If you do, you'll never sleep again." The rancher's hand hovered above the cloth. His heart hammered against his ribs. He'd buried men without flinching, faced bandits without blinking. But something about her voice, that broken plea, froze the blood in his veins. Outside, lightning struck. For a brief, blinding second, the whole room flashed white, and in that light, he saw the dark stains spreading beneath the blanket. Not blood, something thicker, black as oil, shining like the night sky had bled into the fabric itself. "What happened to you?" he whispered, her lips quivered. "It's not me you should be afraid of." His hand finally gripped the edge of the cloth. His breath came short and shallow. Every instinct screamed at him to walk away, to let her be, to leave this cursed cabin and never look back. But guilt, his old, faithful ghost, kept him rooted. He'd found her on the edge of his land 3 nights ago, half dead, muttering about fire and voices in the woods. He couldn't turn away then. He wouldn't now. With a sharp tug, he pulled the cloth away. The lantern flickered. The storm outside went silent. The rancher stumbled back, his knees nearly giving out. His face went pale as chalk. His body began to shake uncontrollably. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. Only a strangled gasp as his eyes widened in horror at what lay before him. The woman didn't move. She just watched him, tears streaming silently down her cheeks, as if she'd seen this moment play out 1,000 times before. The rancher's breath came out in ragged bursts, his chest heaving as he stumbled backward. His boot caught on the edge of a floorboard, sending him crashing against the wall. The lantern quivered on its hook, its flame shrinking low, shadows stretching long and sharp across the room. The woman didn't flinch. She just sat there, still, eerily calm, as if the storm, the fear, the horror meant nothing to her anymore. The blanket lay pooled around her waist now, and what it revealed was something that shouldn't exist in the world of the living. Her skin shimmered faintly, not with beauty, but with something wrong. It moved, almost breathing on its own, like thousands of tiny black threads slithering beneath the surface. Her ribs rose and fell, yet each breath carried a faint hum, like a low whisper that wasn't hers. "God Almighty," the rancher muttered, his voice cracking as he pressed a hand to his mouth. "What did they do to you?" She looked at him, slowly. The whites of her eyes were gone, replaced by a shifting gray, like smoke trapped behind glass. "They didn't do anything," she said softly. "They only called it. I let it in." He shook his head. "You're talking nonsense." "You're cursed," she interrupted. "Bound to it, just like you will be now." Her tone was not cruel. It was filled with pity, the kind that came from someone who'd long accepted their own doom. The rancher backed toward the door, but his legs wouldn't obey. His boots felt heavy, his lungs too tight. It was as if the air in the room had turned thick, alive, pressing against him, crawling under his skin. He blinked, and for an instant, the cabin wasn't a cabin anymore. The walls melted into black trees. The roof turned into a sky split open by fire. He saw faces, twisted, screaming, their eyes hollow and endless. Then it was gone. He stood there panting, drenched in sweat, staring at her. "What are you?" he rasped. Her lips trembled. "Something that was once loved. Something that was once me." A single tear fell from her eye, landing on her arm. The skin where it touched sizzled, the black threads writhing faster, hungrier. The room filled with the scent of burnt flesh and rain-soaked wood. The rancher reached for his revolver with shaking hands, but before he could draw it, she whispered, "It's too late." He froze. The humming grew louder. The lantern flickered again, once, twice. then went out completely. In the darkness, he could hear her voice. Low, broken, close. Her body struck him with a force that didn't belong to flesh and bone. The rancher slammed hard into the wall, his revolver flying from his hand and clattering across the floor. His vision blurred. The air burst from his lungs. Before he could move, her fingers, cold, trembling, clamped around his throat. He could feel her pulse through them, but it wasn't a heartbeat. It was a rhythm, slow and deep, like the earth itself was breathing through her veins. Her face hovered inches from his, her eyes glowing faintly in the darkness. I tried to stop it, she hissed, her voice layered with something that wasn't hers. I thought if I ran far enough, it would stay buried. What are you? He rasped, choking against her grip, her head tilted. The black threads beneath her skin pulsed, spreading across her neck, her jaw, down her arms. They began to seep from her fingertips, writhing like living worms, slithering onto his skin. He could feel them moving, cold, sharp, crawling beneath his collar, sliding across his chest. Panic flared white-hot in his gut. He tried to shove her off, but she didn't move. She didn't budge. Her whisper was so close he could taste it. It's not death it wants. It's memory. Let me go, he gasped, his voice strangled. She pressed her forehead to his, trembling violently. I can't. And then, she screamed. Not a human sound, but something that ripped through the air, shaking the cabin. The wall split. The lantern shattered. The storm outside exploded back to life. Rain slamming against the windows like fists. The black thread shot out from her body, lashing across the room, wrapping around him. He tried to fight, grabbing, pulling, thrashing, but every struggle only tightened their grip. They weren't killing him. They were searching. Images flickered behind his eyes, flashes of his wife's grave, the faces of men he'd buried, the fire that took his land, the years of guilt he'd carried alone. The pain, the loss, the shame, and she whispered through it all, her voice breaking through the storm in pieces. It feeds on sorrow. It remembers what you wish forgotten. The room twisted around them, walls bending, light warping, shadows spinning faster and faster until it all became one endless, churning void. Then suddenly, silence. The threads withdrew, snapping back into her skin. She collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath, her body shaking violently. The rancher dropped to his knees beside her, clutching his chest, trying to remember how to breathe. His hands were slick with something warm. When he looked down, the black residue was smeared across his palms, pulsing faintly, like it had a heartbeat of its own. He wiped it off frantically, but it wouldn't come off. Her voice was faint now, trembling and distant. It's inside you now. He froze. What do you mean? She looked up at him with hollow, tear-streaked eyes. You took the cloth off, she whispered, her voice breaking. Now it knows your name. The storm outside stopped. The wind died. And in the silence that followed, he heard it, a whisper. Not hers. Not his own.